What's up, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Continuing on with our Album of the Year episodes for 2023, today we will be covering our favorite pop releases, which include mainstream, dance, Latin, K-pop, etc. And those foreign subgenres made a huge impact this year as well as they did last year. It was a pretty good year for American pop music, I'd say, with Olivia Rodrigo, Caroline Polachek, and Chappell Roan all putting out what I would say are great projects. We'll talk about those soon, but I think it's safe to say the shift abroad continued this year in our country. Last year, we agreed Latin music was taking over. Artists like Bad Bunny and Rosalia dominated the charts, despite artists like Beyonce and The Weeknd dropping albums. And K-pop has always been dominant overseas, but now it's dominating the American charts. The songs are mostly Korean pop stars singing in English, but it's still a new trend in terms of the demographic here. And I think it's for the best as far as I'm concerned. In terms of pop, I think as a whole, they're putting out the best music, the best albums, the best production quality, probably the best money put or the most money put into their music videos. All the BTS guys, Jungkook, V, J-Hope, all putting out quality solo projects in the last year or two. We have new artists like New Jeans coming up, just dropping nothing but heat. And all of them feel like they're really just getting started out. In terms of the Latin stuff, we're still getting really high quality Latin releases. Carol G, dominated this year with not one but two releases. Cali is shaping up to dominate next year. Bad Bunny is still probably the most popular artist in the world, but I feel like he might be hitting a saturation peak, at least here in the States. Elsewhere in the world, we got Tate McRae from Canada blowing up, Troye Sivan from Australia killing it, Fuji Kaze from Japan coming up, Lola Young from South London on the rise. I'm saying all this to help demonstrate pop music as a whole is in a very good place, both here in the States and elsewhere in the world, which made it very difficult to narrow down my list this year. I could easily make a top five for Latin pop, K-pop, dance pop, mainstream pop, but we will combine them for the sake of simplicity, but we'll talk about them all. Before we dive into our favorite releases this year, what did you think of pop music in 2023?
Man, I think you said all of it. Last year, though, when we were doing our 2023 albums of the year for pop music, we both kind of said that Latin pop is just going to take over, and it kind of has stayed its
Kind of
course here, man.
plateaued. Yeah.
It stayed its course, and then it plateaued a little bit, and then it's just staying right there. It's right, like you said, underneath a lot of the other international releases. There was a documentary on Netflix. I think it was called Pop Matters or something like that. It was pretty interesting that in the early 2000s and the late 90s, basically all pop was being recorded and produced and mastered in Sweden by like one studio. Basically, the Backstreet Boys went
Yep.
there, NSYNC went there, Britney Spears went there.
Max Martin.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So it's really great, in my opinion, to see so much diversity in not only sound, because obviously we're getting so many different like musicalities, and different like
Very different
variants, like
styles. Yeah.
but we're seeing diversity in the artists themselves being able to express themselves in a more free way. We've got just so much diversity in the pop genre right now, and it is honestly, I mean, it's pop music has always been kind of pervasive in society, but I mean, you talk about pop and Taylor Swift comes up, and then you talk to music nerds, and they're all about the Caroline Polachek, and we've got the sleepers like Chappell Roan, like you said, and we've just got all of this music that is really it's really good, man. And I've been a fan of pop music since I was a kid, like I was a boy band fan, like my first concert was in sync, and so to see so much diversity in the scene now instead of what it used to be, internationally is really something cool to witness, and I don't know where it's going to go. I think last year was a pretty easy throw of the roll of the dice, right? I think it was pretty easy. I think it was Latin pop's going to kill it, Taylor Swift is probably going to kill it, and let's go. And this year I have no idea what's going to happen in 2024 with pop. I think we're going to see even more genre diversity, and I'm excited for that.
You touched on something really that I want to expand on a little bit, and that is pop music is the definition of pop music means something different to every single person. But I think the thread that connects all great pop albums is that they bring together groups of people that don't usually identify with one type of music or another. Pop music, I think, is more of a feel than a sound thing than anything. There is definable pop music, but you just know pop music when you hear it, you know? And I think hopefully our lists demonstrate a lot of the more universally loved albums that we think other people will enjoy. But since K-pop is the newest of the subgenres that we're covering this year, are you enjoying the rise of K-pop here in the States? More specifically, like the overall sound of it, kind of like the combination of, I don't know, what would you say, 90s boy band bubblegum pop with like 2010s trap soul R&B stuff?
I think you just that last sentence that you said was hit the nail on the head for me. I think it's a combination of a couple of things that I'm still honestly trying to wrap my head around. I think I am enjoying the sounds. I am whether or not I am falling headfirst into them is a different story yet, but
Yeah.
that's not to say that I dislike any of it. I mean, you've thrown a lot of K-pop at me this year,
Yeah.
and that has really got me interested. I have yet to do a deep dive, right? Like like when I get interested in something, I do a little obsessing, and
Hmm.
I have yet to get that point with K-pop, but I'm sure that I will if it keeps coming like it is.
I think we'll find your artist that you'll finally deep dive for K-pop in 2024. That's my goal at least.
Challenge accepted, my man.
All right, man, let's begin. I will kick this one off. My pop album of the year is Desire I Want to Turn Into You by Caroline Polachek. I guess I'm one of those music nerds you were referring to just a second ago. This one dropped back in February. It's been strong in my rotation ever since. It was a very long-winded rollout, but worth the wait. It's hard to find a bad song or bad moment on the album. And it's not only one of the best pop albums of the year, this is one of the best of the decade so far. When we did our early album of the year preview back in July, I think this was your favorite pop album of the year at the time, too. Is that still the case, or did something surpass it?
No, that's it, bro. Caroline Polachek just absolutely destroyed it this year, man. I have listened to this album like two, 3 dozen times, bro. Every
Yep.
once in a while, it's honestly it's a great driving album.
It's a
It's
great everything album.
Yeah, fair. The Bunny is a rider just gets stuck in my head sometimes. Like I'll wake up and I'll just hear the
Mhm.
Bunny is a ride, and I'm just, oh, okay. Well, guess I'm listening to that album today.
Yeah, I agree, man. I've probably played it close to a couple dozen times as well. It's the rare like edgy but work appropriate pop record.
It's
So
good.
I was throwing this one on all the time. I think it's fucking phenomenal.
And I think we
The
should throw in the show notes her insane vocal performance from her NPR Tiny Desk.
Good
Um,
Lord.
I,
Yeah.
I was straight up blown away. Like I'll throw it in the show notes for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, and for anybody who hasn't listened to this album yet, do it immediately. It is fantastic.
And she has already followed up the album with another really, really good single in Dang, just like a few weeks ago, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Good year for Caroline Polachek, our unanimous pick for pop album of the year. I think we're not going to have as much overlap in the next four though. So
I don't think
the
so either.
rest the rest of my top 5 is as follows. Something to Give Each Other by Troye Sivan at number 2. I reviewed this one highly when it dropped. I still feel the same way about it now that I did then. Other than 2 songs in the middle, I think it is really damn good. Rush, Got Me Started, One of Your Girls are all among the best pop songs to come out this year. And they're all on the same album for us to enjoy. Next up, I got The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan. I had Olivia Rodrigo in this spot to begin with, but I feel like this Chappell Roan album is just more diverse, more fun, and just a more, I don't know, a more me version than the Olivia album was, even though I think both albums are great in their own merit. Uh, and I think it's done very well since its release. I thought it was being slept on, but Rolling Stone had it as their number 12 album of the year, which is a huge, huge thing for her. So Shout out to Chapel Roan for that. I'm going to give
Congrats.
it my number three spot. Yes, congrats are earned. Which was not easy for me because I had to bump the next one down a spot, and that album is Golden by Jungkook. We just talked about this one a few weeks ago. We agreed it's a hell of an effort for a solo pop debut, and he holds his own amongst rarefied air in that regard. All three singles were hits, and the album cuts are all pretty great. It's a hell of a start to his solo career and one that he'll probably only improve on from here. Last on my top five list, we have an album that we did not cover on the podcast. That album is My Mind Wanders and Sometimes Leaves Completely by Lola Young, a newer alt pop act out of South London. She dropped her debut album earlier this year, followed by the single Conceited, which we did review, I think, like a month or two ago. I threw another song from the album on the playlist this week. I don't know if you heard that one. I think it was called Don't Hate Me.
I did.
Um, Good. What did you think of it?
I liked it.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm bummed we didn't get a chance to talk about that album this year, but that's just kind of the way time works on this podcast. Um, yeah, man, she's just got a really unique approach to pop music, truly earning like the alt in the genre name alongside other modern alt pop greats like Benny and Remy Wolf. I hope more people stateside give this one a chance. It's kind of a slow burn, but she's got a lot to say. And the way she says it all just captivates me, man. I think she's not just one to watch going forward, but one to go back and catch up on as well if you missed out what she's done so far.
I'm gonna
That's
do
my
that
top
now.
five. Please, please do. I think you'll we got her vinyl arriving in a few days.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, of course I do. That does it for my top five. Brandon, what are the rest of your top five pop albums for 2023?
So, uh, a great top five, man. We
Thank
actually
you.
do share a few of them, or a couple, couple, maybe one. But so some of these picks may not be conventional pop, but to me they were pop music. We'll go over them and talk about them, and you may even have them on another on another one of your playlists. So my number two spot is taken by the one and only Carly Rae Jepsen, "The Loveliest Time." I don't think you liked this
Wow,
one.
too.
I really liked this album, man. I don't know what it is about Carly Rae Jepsen, but these last couple of years, she has straight up killed it. I think
Mhm.
she was definitely in my top five last year as well with "The Loneliest Time." My number three is honestly it could be considered R&B or it can be considered pop. I think it leans more on the pop side. My number three is Sampha's "Lahai." I think it
Interesting.
is
Okay.
more of a pop record for me. Again, somebody else could say it's R&B, and I would probably agree with them because it is. It really toes that line. And you showed me Sampha, and I was initially pretty apprehensive and kind of like weird about it, but in the context of the entire album, as an like
It's a beautiful album.
it's a beautiful record, man. And I kind of wish I didn't hear the singles before I heard the album, you know, because I went into it thinking, well, we'll see. And then I ended up being blown away. So maybe it doesn't matter that I
Did
hear
you
the
watch The
singles.
Tiny Desk?
I have yet to watch The Tiny Desk. I
Oh,
have
man.
been
You're
massively
in for a
busy.
treat,
I'll watch that right after this, and I'll also throw it into the show notes.
for sure.
My number four could be considered rock, but it's not. I don't think they've ever really been too much of a rock group. Paramore's "This Is Why." It's way more of a pop record than it is a rock record, especially for them. We've got a lot of their records that could be considered a number of different genres, mainly pop punk with a little bit of emo sprinkled in. But this is a pop record, and it is a banger of one, man. They really did it. The C'est Comme Ça with the French. I'm not good at that. Big Man, Little Dignity, Liar. These tracks are just fire.
You first, yeah.
I'm the whole album's great. It's hard to find much of a miss on this one, but I really enjoyed it. And then my number five is Chappell "The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess."
Yes.
You
Yes.
took me by surprise when you threw it onto the playlist, and I remember being like, "Man, what? Who the fuck is this?" And then again, just being blown away.
I threw no singles for that one
No
on.
singles. This was a complete surprise to me, and I remember one day I wasn't in a very good mood, and I was driving, and this came on the playlist, and I was like, "All right, well, what is this?" And it lifted my mood. So
what it
It
does.
yeah, the whole album's great, man.
Fuck yeah, dude. That is a killer top five and way different than I was anticipating. Yeah, a few that I guess are arguably different genres, but you're right. They could all arguably be pop as well. I'll agree with you, Carly. I thought the album was going to be a dud because I was like, there's no way she followed this up this fast with another. The I Last year's I agreed was very good. I was like, there's no way she can do that twice. And she has just become a real bona fide pop star, man, that can make just not just good songs, but good albums. And as evidenced by this one, Kamikaze is still in my rotation. I really love that
It's
song.
a good one, bro.
Um, Sampha, incredible. I'm glad you've taken to him the way that I thought you would. Paramore, incredible album. If that one's going under pop this year, then yeah, that one's in my honorable mentions for sure. And Chapel Roan, I've said all I need to say about that one. I'm just blown away that that one made your top five, man. I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking would make your top five other than that, but I'm glad it made it.
I've always been much more of a rock and a metal guy, and you know that. But my pop tastes are this. I mean, it's diverse. Some of it's weird,
Hmm.
like some of it is
Very.
odd, and I love it when artists can get weird, odd, and still be what they are. Um, yeah, and there's a ton of honorable mentions this year too, man. And
Yeah, let's move on to those.
and it really depends again on how. I mean, there's albums on my album of the year pop playlist which I have not shared with you that could arguably be whatever genres you want them to be. And if Paramore ends up on your top five for rock, I'd totally accept that because it is a rock album. But to me, it's more of a pop album. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, dude. I have sat there and listened to songs with people and been like, is this indie pop or indie rock to you? And we have both come to different answers entirely. So I think it's arguable and they can definitely go in either thing. If they are not pop by sound, they are pop by definition at this point by being
Yep.
one of the most popular bands in the country.
Real. Absolutely
In the
real.
world, probably, actually, at
Yeah.
this point. Bands, yeah. Um, it's crazy that like at this moment in their career, if they wrapped it up, whether people hated it or not, that they'd probably be a late ballot Rock and Roll Hall of Fame candidate someday.
Right. Exactly.
That's nuts. That's
That's crazy,
nuts.
man. That's crazy.
All right, man. Honorable mentions. So I can't remember if we said it last week or not. This is another one that could go in multiple genres. Kylie Minogue's album, fucking incredible. It's either a dance album or a pop album. I'll just say it's a dance pop album and put it here. I loved that one. I was surprised this one did not make your top five.
We talked about it in my honorable mentions for top five of electronic last week.
That's correct. I couldn't remember if that was just Put On Padam or not.
No, I talked about the whole album. To me, it's a dance album. I think
It's
Kylie's
a
always going to make dance music. Whether or not that has pop sensibilities to it or
yeah.
not is completely different. But I think I think it's dance. But you said it's dance pop, so it's probably both. Let's say
I had
yes.
I had very high hopes for the Allison Goldfrapp album earlier this year, and it didn't really end up living up to my hopes, I guess, or
Right.
expectations. This is kind of the album that I think filled that gap for me, and it still fills that gap. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think I disliked that Goldfrapp album.
no, it's just it wasn't an album of the year contender, I will say. That it
Right.
was a good album. It just did not like blow me away on the same level that Kylie Minogue's album did. We got Gus Dapperton dropping a new one this year, Henge. I thought that one was really good. They got that song with Benny on it. Homebody was a really good one. There's a few singles for that one that I think predated 2023 that I enjoyed as well. Have you returned to that one at all?
I have not returned to the whole album, but I have returned to Homebody a couple of times, and that one track with Benny that's
Yeah.
not the one. There's another track.
No, that's don't hold me
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
Good song.
Yeah.
Deb Never put out another EP this year, one that I have not returned to nearly as much as I should, but when I do, it's always good. It's Deb Never. You
Right.
still checking that one out?
No, man. I honestly have not. I have. This year is a little different than most years. I've been pretty busy this
Same.
year. So, in my non podcast life because we don't make a living from this, and so I have
Yet.
I've been yet that is correct. I've realized very quickly which albums are going to be in my front runnings, and I've been adding them to playlists throughout the year, private playlists, and those have been my rotation. And that one didn't make it.
You always make it a point to say private playlist because you know I lurk your playlist. You always let me know when you have something. You've done this since I called you out. I was like, oh yeah, I knew we were gonna do this one because I saw it in your playlist. And you're like, made that one private right after that. And
Yeah,
now every time you bring up playlist, you're like, oh yeah, it's one of my private
yeah, man, you're
playlists.
not looking on my shit.
It's okay. I'm one to talk. Like 90% of mine are private. Um, Enjoy the scene didn't die, a playlist presented by Brandon's face. All right, we got. What about you? What are some of your honorable mentions?
Olivia Rodrigo's Guts, as much as I
Yes.
thought it was in authentic as I thought it was during my original review, because this did immediately go into my pop playlist after we reviewed it, but I remember reviewing it and I remember thinking it's not real, but I do think that it's a good music album, so it went into the playlist, and yeah, man, it deserves to be mentioned for sure, certainly.
I think if Jungkook only qualifies as K-pop, I think it's probably the best mainstream pop release this year in terms of like the traditional Taylor Swift style pop music. I think it was
Fair.
the best of those albums, but there was just much better pop music this year.
Yep. Another honorable mention is that Jungkook album. I really did enjoy it. It kind of took me by surprise, and I got those Bruno Mars vibes from him, those Bruno Mars and those Justin Timberlake vibes from him. And honestly, I'm really excited to see what else he does.
Yeah, we haven't been covering new music this month because we're working on all of our album of the year stuff, but he had Usher do a remix of Standing Next to You and Justin Timberlake did a remix of 3D. Both
Yep.
are pretty good and both are kind of like I wouldn't consider Usher pop royalty, but they're both kind of like a passing of the torch type
Yeah.
anointing remix feel. Really cool stuff.
Another one of my honorable mentions is also in your top five. The Troye Sivan album is a lot of fun. That sample he uses from I always forget that artist, but
Shooting Stars?
Shooting Stars. That's the one. That Shooting Stars sample is so much fun. The whole album's a lot of fun, and I did go back to it quite a bit, but I enjoyed musically the other records that I put in my top five a little better.
He he in terms of just a name has been such a popular topic beyond just his music. I mean, there's a fucking full SNL sketch about him this year
I
that we
know.
got that was very bizarre. He was on probably the most controversial show of the year, The Idol, with The Weeknd on HBO, which feels like a distant fever dream at this point. Yeah, I think Troye Sivan defines not what pop music is, but what being a pop star is right now.
Yeah, you know what? Good for him. Have you watched any of that Weekend show? I haven't seen it.
God, no. Fuck no, dude. It looks awful. It looks so bad. No, man.
It just looks like what somebody in LA wants their life to be.
Brandon, I listen to music. Let's not go over our Spotify raps, but I listened to music for almost 70,000 minutes last year. I am definitely not spending time watching The Idol.
Really, you beat me, huh? I forgot to look at how many minutes you listened. I was at 66.
No, no, I didn't beat you. I rounded up, is
Got
what
it.
I did. I
Got
was
it.
at
Got
like
it.
62 to 63. So you
Got it.
beat me.
All right, there you
Um,
go. I win. What do I get?
Yeah. You get to tell me your favorite pop albums of the year from foreign artists, Latin or K-pop.
The Tiny album was pretty cool.
That one
Um,
fucking ruled, actually. I think that finished way high up, like top 10 on Rolling Stone.
I'm pretty sure he's number two in the world right now. Maybe number three. I could be wrong. We had two New Jeans EPs this year, right?
No, just one. I
Just
think
the
I
one.
showed you both of their
Got it. You must
EPs
have
at the
showed me
same
both of
time. They
them.
had one from last year. Yeah.
Yeah, New Jeans is great. That was a lot of fun.
That EP is so good.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Carol G is fun, but it's it's the Latin beat. I'm getting a little tired of that boom, boom,
Sure.
boom.
Yep.
And it's just it's for me. It's not. I also hear it constantly, and it gets tired. It just gets tiring. So
Yeah, I can see that. The Bad Bunny album, while definitely pop by who he is. I think
Right.
it's kind of more of a rap album than anything.
Yep. He's going
Like
back
the
to his trap sound.
Monaco is an incredible track, but yeah, I wouldn't put that one top. I would put probably Taney as like the number one Latin album for me this year as well. It's there's so many good songs. He's got the Marias on it. He's got Bad Bunny on it. Young Miko. He's got Mike Towers. He's got everybody. He's got Skrillex and Fortet on that album.
That's
He's got
right.
everybody, man. And the songs he's released since then, that Fatal Fantasy one that was like super clubby, Camilo, which was I think better than anything on the album. He's definitely my Latin artist of the year. I think that album's really, really good.
You know, I have to say, Bad Bunny did a SNL performance of, I think it was Monaco,
Yeah,
and dear God, man, that performance was fantastic. It was, I
good
think it was my
performance.
standout of the album as well. And I remember, I think we had like just gotten done recording the podcast for it, and then Bad Bunny came out on SNL, and honestly, he killed it on SNL. I got to tell you that. And then that performance came out, and I remember being like, "Damn, that is a good fucking song."
He is a great performer, man. He's one of the best for a reason. He puts on a show, dude. In terms of K-pop, I agree with you 1000%. New Jeans fucking killed it. That
Killed
EP
it.
Get Up was incredible. The getting the licensing for the Powerpuff Girls to use for like the imaging and shit was
Yep.
great. Them doing their first American performance at Lollapalooza this year was huge. I think it went really well. I think that there's a certain manufactured aspect of all K-pop that is interesting to see if it'll connect with every audience or every generation as it keeps going. But I think they're just so good at what they do. Everything is so catchy. It's such an earworm every time you hear it, especially Super Shy, which was probably one of the best pop songs this year. Yeah, man, they killed it. Elsewhere, I would say V from BTS, his solo album. I think it was called Layover. That one was fantastic. Yeah, man, there was a lot of good foreign music this year. I'm excited to keep covering Latin pop and K-pop. Who knows? We might get a new subgenre of pop next year to cover.
Honestly, I think the way Tiny mixed those Latin beats with those cumbia beats with trap beats this year
Yeah.
is really what's going to happen. I think we're going to see a lot of genre blending in this next year, and I think that genre blending is going to spit out a style at the by the end of the year that's going to be the standard for the next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. I think it will too. I actually have a song that came out like a day or two ago that I think is a good representation of that. We'll talk about sometime in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I have a
Um,
whole to cover in 2024 playlist going, my man. I think it's close to
yep,
70 songs already. So
that sounds
the
about right.
for the first podcast in January is going to be fun.
Tune in for that. All right, let's talk about our favorite pop singles this year. Seven by Jungkook is clearly the biggest single of the year with over 1 billion plays. Super Shy by New Jeans is probably my favorite. Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo is her best song to date. I don't even think that's subjective. Greedy by Tate McRae. This one came late in the year. We did not cover it on the podcast. I threw it on the best of playlist because I do like the song. She performed on SNL like a week ago. She's blowing up at a
Mm-hmm.
rapid rate. Her debut album is dropping, I think, early next year. We'll pick her up around then. Did you
Nice.
catch that performance or the song on the playlist this
I
week?
don't think
It
was
was
this
pretty
last
high up.
week.
It's like
Was this last week?
this was the pop one. So it's right under the New Jeans Oh My God song. It's like sixth on there, but she was on SNL 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, I haven't watched that SNL. Again, I've been busy these last couple weeks for
Might have been
sure.
the Jason Momoa one. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, she's definitely blowing up right
Oh,
now. We
Tate
got
McRae. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I watched that SNL performance. It's okay. I'm not a huge fan of her.
interesting. I mean, I think she's kind of like in that Madison Beer
That's
tier of like
exactly the
mid
vibes I got.
upper mid-level pop artist, but not quite the top tier.
Yep.
But she's definitely getting the plays of a top tier artist. We will have to check that
Certainly.
album when it comes out.
Certainly. One of my favorites, though, this year on the podcast or on the playlist this week, that Raul Alejandro Baby Hello.
Oh,
is a
great one.
really good
Yep.
one. The Rosalia LLYLM track.
Lie Like You Love Me. Yeah.
Yep. And then her collab with Raul Alejandro Vampiros is also fantastic.
R.I.P. to that couple, man. What a
Oh, that
time.
happened? I don't know. I don't
Yeah, they
follow
broke
shit.
up like a month after that EP came out.
Damn, bro.
She is
Damn.
dating the dude from The Bear, Jeremy Allen
Already?
White now. Yeah, from
Already?
yeah, well, they broke up like months ago in
Oh, okay.
Celebrity Time. That's years ago.
That's so long.
You got anything else? What else you got?
I mean, for singles, bro, I think we would be remiss if we didn't even mention Antihero. As much as we didn't like
Would we?
as much as we didn't like Midnight's, the impact that that song has had and the massive rise of Taylor Swift's popularity. She has officially beaten out The Weeknd as the number one artist in the world on Spotify. I don't know what that means elsewhere,
She's
but
Times Person of the Year today.
she's Times Persons of the Year today. She is ubiquitous nowadays. I have forever told you that I'm a fan of Taylor Swift's music, right?
You are. Yes.
I'm a fan of her music, not of her celebrity, you know?
Hmm.
And it's kind of weird, right? To be in that position where like I've always been like I've been a fan of hers for close to a decade, and coming through now where it's like really cool to be a fan of hers is kind of a weird situation to be in because everybody's kind of obsessing about something that
You've never cared if she eats her chicken tenders with ranch and ketchup. Like that, you're like, I like some of her songs. I don't get what this has to do with any of that.
right, and obviously no ketchup with chicken. Who's what? But yeah, so
Oh man, you are a proud Swiftie, and although I don't agree with you and you're a trash person for being one, I do love you for being so honest about it. All right, I got a few more singles. Feather by Sabrina Carpenter, great song. Girl Meets World alumni as well. Green Honda by Benny, absolute fucking banger. I was
yeah,
hoping
that's
we
a
would
good
get
one.
more new music from her Spotify like personal message top listener thing. She said her new album is coming next year though, so very excited for that.
Oh, you
And
that was the message you got? You got the Benny one?
no, so there's a
I see.
feature to where you can go through and see all of your top artists versus the top one that they showed you. They'll
Got
show
it.
you all the
Got it.
ones that recorded them at least for him.
Yeah, see,
Callie was mine, and my heart fell out of my chest when that video came on.
right, see, Boy Genius just called me gay, so that's
Were they
that's
your
it.
top?
They were one of them. I listened to a lot of them for reasons, but they said, "What's the hardest part about being a Boy Genius fan in 2023?" And then I think it switched to Phoebe, and she was like, "Telling your family you're gay." So
Well, they're not wrong.
I guess I'll tell my wife.
I think she knows. All right, man. My pop song of the year. I might have said another song is my pop song of the year. They're all my pop song of the year. But "Kiss Me" by Empress of and Rina Sawayama, fucking incredible. Like mid 2000s Rihanna pop perfection. It's a great one.
There you go.
That's all I got for singles. You got anything else?
No, no singles. My song of the year though is uh, for pop. I think it might be "Bunny is a Rider." That shit gets stuck in my fucking head, bro.
Satellite can't find her.
There it is.
All right. All right. Favorite live performance. Anything coming to mind?
Yeah, I think I got to go with Bad Bunny's Monaco on SNL, or Caroline
Gotcha.
Polachek's NPR performance. Those two are tied for me.
Oh man, that Caroline Polachek NPR
It
was
blew me
good.
away.
Yeah, there was a lot, man. I feel like New Jeans at Lollapalooza was a really, really good one. Dominic Fike at Coachella was definitely not a good one.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed about that one, man.
Yeah, that was a bummer. I'm gonna go New Jeans at Lollapalooza just because it made me the happiest.
There it is.
All right, let's talk a little bit about next year. I already said Tate McRae will be dropping. Actually, she is dropping, I think, this week. So we'll cover that early next year. Um, In terms of pop releases for next year, though, there's not much on the calendar as of now. Callie's album will probably be as much R&B as it is Latin pop. Chromeo will probably be as much dance as it is pop. Bring Me the Horizon will probably be as much pop as it is rock. Uh,
No comment.
maybe this is the album where they finally go full pop. We'll see. You'll
Honestly,
have
if
to
they
tune in
did
next
that,
year to find out.
I would honestly fucking respect them more at this point.
So, with not much on the calendar, let's just try and manifest who we want to drop. You already know my number one hope. I want the Marias to drop a new album.
Yes.
Seems like it's going to happen. Benny seems like a strong possibility. In terms of mainstream stuff, I'm always hoping for Rihanna. I hope Ariana comes back late next year after her movie comes out. Anything I'm missing? What are you excited for?
I hope that Carly Rae Jepsen drops again. Although that's probably
The
won't happen.
greatest pop trilogy of all
Right?
time.
Like
What is it?
pull a
So
Nas, bro.
we've had the loneliest time and the loveliest time. What's left? The
Uh
lamest time.
oh man, yeah. I honestly I couldn't tell you, bro. I really for pop stars. What do you think about a boy band reunion? There's talks of boy band reunions happening. What are your thoughts on that?
What boy band?
I think it
Like
was
In
in sync.
Sync?
I think it was in
No,
sync.
I don't want it. No, the song was okay for the Trolls movie, but no, we don't want to expose the cracks in terms of how good NSYNC is right now. Let's let them have their comeback slash retirement song. No, man, the this is not a old age gracefully thing with the exception of like Beyonce. The young eat the old in pop music and combat sports, in all sports. Like this is what happens. There's a new batch of pop artists that are taking over the world. Some of them seem very talented. Some of them will fall off by the time we're having this conversation next year.
This is
But
true.
it's going to be very, very interesting to monitor going forward, no matter what.
This is definitely true. I think Pops is going to be a weird one, and that's one of the reasons why I can't even like put a name on it. You know, like I can't put any names in it that I'm like stoked for because there's an artist that I don't know about yet that's going to release a pop album this year, like Chappell Roan did, and it's going to hit me. So we'll see what happens,
I
man.
I
Pop,
think I'm
pop,
more excited for the unknown ones than the ones I'm already excited for, honestly.
almost always for me, and I gotta say, man, I'm just stoked to I'm stoked to see what new K-pop ends up like breaking through and stuff like that. So man, we'll see what happens, bro. Pop is gonna bring the diversity this year, and along with another genre that we'll talk about probably next week, and I think that diversity is going to do one of a number of things. It's either gonna push it a little bit more. I can't really say that underground for pop because it's pop music, but it's going to push it in a weirder direction for pop music, or it's going to push it in a direction that everybody just clicks with. And I'm very excited to hear what that sound is because something's going to change this year, and I can just feel it.
I am hoping so, man. I think that's a great place to leave the show this week. Join us in next week as we continue our album of the year series by sharing our favorite R&B albums of the year. You can find us online at Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. Don't forget to follow the playlist that the podcast is based on if you aren't already. It's full of a ton of great pop this week. It's going to be full of a ton of great R&B next week. It's a great way to brush up on what we enjoyed. You can find the link to that in the show notes. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.